to do is go through the entire process of creating the timeline, or using the timeliner to match up selection sets in Navisworks with a project file that has kind of the equivalent of a Gantt chart, laying out exactly when each selection set item starts and finishes. So let me just go through the whole process here. As I've got an empty drawing, empty project drawing, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say open a particular file. I've got them on my desktop in the folder called Navisworks Training, and I'm looking for examples. So under the Getting Started, it's actually a cache file that I'm opening to begin with. So if I said open the architectural cache file, that's what I've got in my project, and I can see just the architectural building here, the one that was exported from Revit Architecture. And I'm going to say append to this. Actually, I can get it from here. Append the MEP, append the structure. So I've got all three disciplines in my model. And what you've seen in kind of previous exercises was that the interface that I'm working with here was called, under the view, is the workspace. It was called standard, just so that you can see where that came from. And it's got all of these different options available on it. What I want to do is look at the selection sets. What had happened was that there was an outside file, an XML file that is a listing of selection sets. So instead of me having to go and create them individually for objects in my model here, I can go up to the application menu and I can say import these selection sets, and it's pointing in this folder and bringing them in. So what that is now is if I look at the selection sets, you see that if I pick on supply or all glazed windows or cast in place walls, it's selecting the objects that I want. Well, this same listing exists in the project file, where there's more information about when does the construction start and when does it finish for each of these items. If you wanted it to be more detailed, say for the walls, you might make different selection sets for each phase of development that you want to show. For example, walls week 1, walls week 2, walls week 3, walls week 4, whatever the sequence is. So you might have to be more categories of selection, or finer detail on what is being constructed over what period of time than we have in this actual model. But now we've got the selection sets in, and the option that exists for me is that I should be able to go up and set up the animation. So under the timeliner, I should be able to, under the links here, I should be able to right click and say add a link to any one of these types of file. The type of file that I want to link to is the one called the Microsoft project file, an MPX file, and it's labeled there as Conference Center. Now you'd have to be familiar with both, and the naming convention for the sets that are in the Navisworks file and the sets that are listed in the project file need to be the same. So the first thing that I'm doing is actually, and I haven't been able to open the project file, but the instructions tell me that the task type, which I'm taking to mean the naming of the components that are on the time scheduling project are in a field called text 10. So I'm just moving down here until I find the field called text doing is attaching that to my project, and then I can click. If I look on the timeliner, I see that I've got this link to this file. What I can tell it is that the rule that I want to apply is that the timeliner tasks, which is in Navisworks, should be matched up or matching up with the selection sets with the same name, including upper and lower case. They have to be matching exactly. So I'm setting that up before I tell it that I want to rebuild the. So if it, just to show you at the moment, there are no tasks in the project, but they're going to come, and there's no Gantt view or anything in the project. It's all going to come from linking together the data that's in the Navisworks selection sets and the listing of the same name or grouping of objects in the project file. So if I right click on this and say rebuild task hierarchy from link, what I should see now is if I go to here, I'm seeing the listing of the selection sets, and they have a start and an end date from the project file, so that I know when they exist. Now I should be able to go and say, I'm going to just show you the Gantt chart so you get an idea of how it's laid out here. I'm going to zoom out a bit so you can see what's going on. I'm working at a reduced scale, but you get an idea of how it's laid out on the timeline. So then if I say simulate, it should actually be showing me the okay, so I brought in the building, and I mean I've got the building, and I've made the link to my file. I've now got the tasks, I've now got the, let me just draw this up so you can see it. I've now got the Gantt chart, I've got the start and stop dates. I've told it that I want to match the selection set with the same. Apparently the step that I was missing was I need to say override whatever current selections there were. So when I go back to here, I'm now saying rebuild the link, the task hierarchy from the link. I can now come down here and I can look at my model, so you see I can switch it to any view that I want. I'm just going to turn it a little bit and roll forward a little bit and pan over so you can see the majority of the building. And now what I'm going to do is click on the Simulate tab, and it shows me the beginning of the file, so I can look at the beginning and the end, but also I can just play it from the beginning to see the simulated construction of the building. And I have to say that's pretty cool, but it looks like there's a lot of work in setting up the selection sets and matching them with the objects in the project file.